WW2 Rewired presents the story of Battleship Yamato. Built in secrecy and steel, Yamato was the largest battleship ever created. This calm documentary explores how power, pride, and ambition shaped her fate, and how changing warfare turned a steel giant into a lasting historical lesson. Introduction: The dream of absolute power. The story of Battleship Yamato begins long before steel touched water. It begins with fear. After the First World War, Japan understood that it could never match the industrial output of the United States or Britain. Ship for ship, Japan would always be outnumbered. The only solution imagined by naval planners was simple in concept and extreme in execution. Build ships so powerful that one could defeat several enemies alone. This idea shaped the philosophy of the Imperial Japanese Navy during the interwar years. Battles would be decided by decisive surface engagements. Giant guns, heavy armor, and discipline would overcome numbers. Yamato was conceived not merely as a warship, but as a national answer to strategic limitation. Secrecy surrounded her creation. The project was hidden even from many within the Navy. Workers at the shipyard were isolated. Construction sheds were roofed to prevent aerial observation. Drawings were fragmented, so no single engineer understood the full design. Yamato was not just a weapon. She was a state secret. When Yamato was finally launched in December 1940, she displaced more than any warship ever built. At full load, she weighed over 72,000 tons. She was longer, wider, and heavier than any battleship that had come before her. Japan believed it had built an unbeatable fortress that could dominate the Pacific, but history was already moving in a different direction. Design and power engineering: The ultimate battleship, Yamato, was designed around one central idea: firepower beyond comparison. Her main armament consisted of 9 460mm guns mounted in 3 massive turrets. These guns were the largest naval artillery pieces ever deployed. Each shell weighed approximately 1.5 tons. When fired, the recoil alone shook the ship like an earthquake. These guns could strike targets more than 40 kilometers away. In theory, Yamato could hit an enemy before being detected or engaged. Against any existing battleship, her shells could penetrate armor with ease. No enemy vessel carried guns capable of matching her range and destructive power. Her secondary armament included numerous smaller guns designed to fight cruisers and destroyers. Anti-aircraft weapons were added throughout her service life, but these were never sufficient to counter the growing threat from the air. Armor protection was equally extreme. The main belt armor was thicker than 40 centimeters in places. The deck armor was layered to resist plunging fire. The turrets themselves were armored like bunkers. Yamato was built to absorb punishment and continue fighting. Her engines provided respectable speed for a ship of her size. Yet speed was not her primary defense. Yamato relied on endurance and resilience. She was built to survive gunfire, not bombs. This was her greatest flaw. Role in World War II: The reluctant flagship Yamato entered service in December 1941, just days after the attack on Pearl Harbor. She immediately became the flagship of the combined fleet. Her presence symbolized Japanese naval power and imperial pride. Yet despite her power, Yamato saw little direct combat. Japanese leadership understood her symbolic value. Losing Yamato would be a psychological blow. As a result, she was often kept in reserve. She spent long months anchored at Truk Lagoon or Kure Naval Base. While aircraft carriers fought decisive battles, Yamato waited. The Battle of Midway changed naval warfare forever. Aircraft sank battleships without ever coming within gun range. Yamato did not participate. Later, she engaged in the Battle of the Philippine Sea and the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Even then, her massive guns were rarely decisive. She fired at distant targets with limited effect. The era she was built for was disappearing around her. Yamato became a paradox: too valuable to risk, too outdated to decide the war. Operation 10, Go the final mission. By April 1945, Japan faced invasion. Okinawa was under assault. The Imperial Navy was shattered. Fuel shortages crippled remaining ships. A desperate plan was approved. Operation 10 Go. Yamato would sail with a small escort toward Okinawa. She carried only enough fuel for a one-way journey. The plan was to beach the battleship and use her guns as a stationary coastal battery. There would be no air cover. On April 7, 1945, American carrier aircraft detected the task force. Hundreds of planes attacked in coordinated waves. Torpedo bombers struck her sides. Dive bombers pierced her decks. Yamato fought back with every gun she had. Smoke filled the sky. Explosions tore through her hull. Flooding worsened with each hit. Eventually, she capsized. Internal explosions ignited her magazines. The blast was visible for miles. Yamato broke apart and sank. More than 3,000 sailors were lost. The greatest battleship ever built was destroyed entirely by aircraft. Why Yamato failed? The end of an idea. Yamato did not fail because of engineering weakness. She failed because naval warfare had changed faster than strategy. Air power proved dominant. Speed, flexibility, and range mattered more than armor. Battleships could no longer operate without air superiority. Yamato embodied the final expression of an outdated belief. That power meant size. That protection meant armor. That victory meant direct confrontation. The future belonged to carriers and aircraft. Historical significance, legacy of steel and sacrifice. Today, Yamato remains one of the most studied warships in history. She symbolizes ambition, discipline, and tragedy. Museums in Japan preserve her memory. Documentaries examine her lessons. She is remembered not only as a weapon, but as a warning. Technology without adaptability becomes obsolete. Strength without flexibility becomes vulnerable. Yamato was perfect for a war that no longer existed. Inside Yamato, daily life, beneath the armor, life aboard Battleship Yamato was defined by scale, discipline, and silence. The ship was not only enormous from the outside. Inside it was a floating city of steel corridors, ladders, compartments, and machines. More than 3,000 crew members lived within her hull. They slept in tight quarters, stacked in levels. Air was heavy with oil, metal, and steam. Light came from dim bulbs that never showed daylight. For many sailors, weeks passed without seeing the open sky. Daily routines were strict. Wake-up calls echoed through compartments. Cleaning was constant. Every surface was polished. Rust was treated as an enemy. Discipline was absolute. Food was simple and repetitive. Rice soup, pickled vegetables, and small portions of fish formed the core diet. Fresh food was rare during long deployments. Water was rationed carefully. Despite hardship, morale remained high. Serving on Yamato was considered an honor. Sailors believed they were aboard the strongest ship ever built. Many felt protected by her armor, as if the steel itself would shield them from fate. But beneath that belief was awareness. Everyone knew Yamato was a symbol. Symbols attract attention. Technology versus human limits. Yamato machinery spaces were immense. Boilers roared constantly. Turbines vibrated the deck plates. Engineers worked in extreme heat, often stripped to minimal clothing. The ship consumed vast amounts of fuel. Every mile traveled carried strategic cost. As fuel shortages worsened, Yamato movement became rare. Gunnery drills were intense. Crews trained endlessly to load, aim, and fire the massive main guns. Each shell required coordinated effort. Precision mattered more than speed. Yet for all this preparation, Yamato rarely fired her guns in battle. Sailors trained for a decisive duel that never came. The mismatch between preparation and reality created quiet tension. Sailors waited. They listened to reports of carrier battles. They heard of ships lost to aircraft. The war they trained for was slipping away. Psychology of serving on Yamato shaped the mind. Pride and pressure coexisted. Many sailors believed Yamato represented Japan itself. Strong, dignified, unyielding. This belief was reinforced by command structure and culture. Failure was unthinkable. Retreat was rarely discussed. Duty outweighed survival. At the same time, fear existed. Air raid drills were constant. Sailors knew the ship lacked adequate air defense. They watched American aircraft dominate the skies elsewhere. Some wrote letters home that were never sent. Others kept diaries hidden. Many accepted their fate silently. Yamato did not allow emotional release. It demanded endurance. Encounters with modern warfare. As the war progressed, Yamato anti-aircraft defenses were expanded. More guns were added. Crews trained to fire at fast-moving targets. It was not enough. Aircraft attacked from beyond visual range. Torpedoes struck underwater. Bombs penetrated decks. Battleships were built to fight ships they could see. Aircraft attacked from invisibility. This reality became clear at Leyte Gulf. Yamato fired her guns. She caused damage, yet aircraft dominated the battle. Sailors realized then that armor no longer guaranteed safety. The ship was strong. The concept behind her was vulnerable. Operation Tengo revisited human perspective. When Yamato sailed on her final mission, many sailors understood the truth. Fuel was insufficient for return. Air cover was absent. They went anyway. Some officers told crews the mission was to defend the homeland. Others said nothing. Silence filled the spaces. During the attack, sailors fought with discipline. Damage control teams worked until overwhelmed. Fire spread. Flooding increased. Eyewitness accounts describe calm amid chaos. Orders were followed. Men stayed at posts even as compartments flooded. When Yamato capsized, many were trapped inside. Few survived. The explosion that destroyed Yamato ended not just a ship, but an era. Comparison with Allied battleships. Compared to American battleships like Iowa, Yamato was heavier and more heavily armed. Yet Iowa-class ships were faster and integrated with carrier fleets. American doctrine emphasized flexibility. Battleships escorted carriers. Air power led. Japanese doctrine centered on decisive surface battle. Yamato was built for that moment. The moment never arrived. Technology favored adaptability over mass. Yamato after the war memory and meaning after the war. Yamato became a symbol of loss and reflection in Japan. For years, discussion was restrained. Later, museums and memorials emerged. The Yamato Museum in Kuri displays models, artifacts, and stories. Yamato is remembered with respect, not celebration. She represents courage and sacrifice. She also represents strategic miscalculation. In literature, film, and documentaries, Yamato appears as a tragic giant, powerful yet outdated. Her story is taught not as triumph, but as lessons of Yamato. Yamato teaches several enduring truths. Power without adaptability fades. Technology must evolve with strategy. Symbols can inspire yet mislead. War rewards flexibility more than strength. Yamato was not weak. She was misplaced in time. From blueprint to reality, a detailed timeline, the idea of Yamato took shape in the early 1930s. Japan had withdrawn from naval limitation treaties. This decision allowed designers to imagine ships without imposed limits. Construction began in secrecy at Kura Naval Arsenal. The dock was modified to hide the hull from aerial observation. Workers were sworn to silence. Even families were told nothing. Yamato was launched in December 1940. Her commissioning followed in December 1941. She entered service quietly while the world focused on Pearl Harbor. For much of 1942 and 1943, Yamato served as a mobile headquarters. She moved between bases. She carried admirals and staff. She rarely engaged the enemy. By 1944, fuel shortages and carrier losses limited her movement. She participated in the Battle of Leyte Gulf. There she fired her main guns in anger for the first time. The battle proved inconclusive for her role. Aircraft dominated again. In April 1945, Yamato sailed on her final mission. Within hours, she was destroyed. Her active combat life was brief. Her symbolic life would be long. Voices of the crew human memory survivor accounts describe Yamato not as a monster, but as a home. Sailors remembered narrow bunks, constant drills, endless cleaning. Many remembered pride. Serving on Yamato meant serving at the heart of the Navy. Others remembered fear that was never spoken aloud. Some survivors spoke of the final battle with clarity. Aircraft filled the sky. Orders remained calm. Damage control teams worked until compartments flooded. One survivor recalled seeing the sky turn dark with smoke. Another remembered the sound of metal tearing beneath the feet. Few escaped. Those who did carried memory rather than medals. Their stories emphasized discipline rather than drama, duty rather than panic. Strategic decisions behind Operation Tengo. Operation Tengo was not born from optimism. It was born from inevitability. Japan lacked fuel. It lacked air cover. It lacked ships. Okinawa was under attack. Doing nothing felt unacceptable. The mission offered no realistic chance of success. It offered only resistance. Strategically, it achieved little. Psychologically, it reflected the mindset of the time. Sacrifice was valued above survival. Yamato was sent because she remained the strongest symbol. Losing her would be terrible. Not using her felt worse. This decision marked the end of battleship-centered thinking. The cultural meaning of the name Yamato. The name Yamato is ancient. It refers to Japan itself, its people, its land, its identity. Naming the ship Yamato was deliberate. She was meant to embody national spirit. After the war, this symbolism became complex. Yamato represented bravery and loss, pride and regret. In modern Japan, Yamato is remembered carefully. She is honored without glorification. Her story is told as history, not myth. Museums present her as education. Films present her as tragedy. Yamato became a mirror for reflection. The end of the battleship era. Yamato sinking marked more than a ship loss. It marked the end of an era. After World War II, no nation built battleships of similar scale. Aircraft carriers dominated. Submarines evolved. Missiles replaced guns. Battleships became support vessels. Then, museums. Yamato stands as the final peak of a design, philosophy that reached its limit. She was the strongest answer to the wrong question. Final evaluation. What Yamato teaches. Yamato teaches that power must align with reality. Engineering brilliance cannot overcome strategic blindness. Strength without adaptability becomes vulnerability. War changes faster than symbols. Yamato was not a failure of effort. She was a lesson written in steel and fire. Closing reflection. The story of Battleship Yamato is not about defeat alone. It is about transition. From guns to aircraft. From armor to mobility. From certainty to uncertainty. Yamato was built for a world that vanished before she could shape it. She sank beneath the sea, but rose in memory, not as a warning against courage, but as a reminder that the future belongs to those who adapt.